Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Rico and this is Relatively Sound, the channel that is rattled by the thunder. Today I'm back to review 3 new singles from some upcoming albums from some of my favorite singer-songwriters, and I'm going to hop right into it. The first single I'm going to talk about today is going to be the latest single from Jack White titled Dollar Bill, and it's coming off of his upcoming album Frozen Charlotte, which is being released on July 10th. Now, a couple months ago, he did release 2 other songs that are going to be on this upcoming album. Back in April, he released these songs right before he played them on SNL. And if you want my thoughts on those songs, go and check out this video right here where I do go into links talking about those 2 songs. If you want a refresher, I enjoy these songs. I think that they kind of sounded like leftovers from his last studio album, No Name, which came out in 2024. And I never ended up releasing a review of No Name. It is an album I enjoyed, but definitely not as much as most other fans, because most fans thought that No Name was a return to form where Jack was going back to his bluesy guitar rock roots. Kind of sounded like a White Stripes album, honestly. And even though I like the White Stripes, I prefer his solo albums, and I really prefer the Raconteurs albums. So that album, even though I enjoyed the first half, by the end of the album, I was a little over that sound. I prefer when Jack's a little bit more experimental, or especially when it's more acoustic. So like Entering Heaven Alive, Blunderbuss, and Fear of Dawn. I love those albums. No Name, I enjoyed, just not as much as those albums. So when he released Dollar Bill, and I basically had 3 songs now from the album to listen to, I am getting vibes that this album is going to be a little bit more of that kind of straightforward blues guitar rock. And again, I really enjoy that. Jack does it almost better than anyone else. But I was kind of hoping this new album would be a little bit of a change up. Maybe I just got spoiled after Fear of Dawn and Entering Heaven Alive got released the same year. But I will say Dollar Bill, I think I prefer it out of the other 2 songs. Even though normally I wouldn't be super impressed and I would say, this sounds cool, but it's not my favorite style of music. I will say that the song is really catchy. The vocals, the main riff, I do think it's catchier than the other 2 singles. So I am hoping that this album is a little bit more like Dollar Bill as opposed to the other 2 songs. But on this album, I am hoping he does maybe try out some new sounds. What I am excited about is the actual release of the album, because right now on streaming services, instead of the album being called Frozen Charlotte, it's being called Frozen Charlotte 10. And the album cover is slightly different with a different face on the statue, a different color. So there's a lot of speculations about there being a double album. There's a lot of speculations about maybe the vinyl version being different than the streaming versions because Jack's really into vinyl. And we're not sure what to expect. More songs, live versions of these songs, demo versions, who knows. Whatever's going to happen, it's going to be very exciting, and I am looking forward to this album. Next single I'm going to talk about is the newest single from Phoebe Bridgers. The song is called Lost Boys, and it's off of her upcoming album titled Lost Weekend, which is being released on August 14th. Everyone is hyping up this album, and rightly so, because even though she did release an album with Boy Genius back in 2023, which was a fantastic album, it's been 6 years now since her last solo album, which was Punisher back in 2020. So a lot of people don't know what to expect with this new album. Is it going to have a lot of the energy that the record did? Or is it going to be more the kind of acousticness from her first album? Or is it going to be more like Punisher, where it's a little mixture of both? And I do think with this new single, Lost Boys, it is a little mixture of both. And I will say that I want to like the song more than I am. And a lot of that I feel like has to do with how the song was written and the production choices. And that's because when you look at the credits for the song, there's 5 different writers and 5 different producers. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that's always a bad thing. 10 people write a song and the song is fantastic, who cares? That said, the song doesn't sound like it's up to her normal standards, and it definitely feels like there was a little too many cooks in the kitchen. Christian Lee Hudson is one of the writers on the song. And I adore his album Quitters. And I think he works well with Phoebe. She produced that album of his. And you have Bo Burnham on the song, who is a very interesting guy. And I think he might bring something cool to the table. But, like, Alex G, Marshall Vore, like, are they really contributing that much to the song? And that's because the song, my main gripe with it is, like, the chorus seems a little, like, detached from the verse, which I prefer the verse. The chorus isn't, I feel like, catchy enough, and or my main problem is it's too repetitive. And it's like, when it's only a 4-minute song, but we get the chorus so often, and you have 5 writers on it, something more exciting should have happened in the song. And I get that this song's a little bit more upbeat, not just like, you know, it has more of a major sound to it when it comes to the chords, but, you know, like her other 2 albums, it sounds like the biggest song from this album might be the radio hit song on the album. And that's because, like, Stranger in the Alps, Motion Sickness is the biggest song, arguably. And that one has drums, it has bass, it has guitars. And then Punisher, biggest song, Kyoto, which I love. I love both those tracks. Kyoto has a, you know, more of an upbeat driving beat. It's got horns, got a lot of instrumentation. Love it. This album seems like it's trying to do the same thing. And for some reason, this song just doesn't work for me. And I think some of the other reasons I don't love the song is the production. And again, you have like 5 different producers. I think my main critique of it all comes from Jack Antonoff, because he is someone I just don't like his production, and I don't like the music he makes. He seems like he's probably a cool dude, but I don't like Fun. I really don't like Bleachers. And I just don't like his production style. And I don't really listen to the artists that he produces, like Taylor Swift or Lana Del Rey or Lorde. And it makes sense that he would work with Phoebe, but it's just like this song, like some of the vocal effects, some of the like synths and like drum noises. I think those are the things he brings to the table that I think is distracting and takes away from her normal songwriting talent. Which sucks, because I think the lyrics for the most part are really well crafted. I really like the themes of the song about, like, you know, kind of not wanting to grow up and, you know, hating the responsibilities of being an adult. Lost Boys can either be a play off of Peter Pan, or it can either be talking about the 1980s movie. That one probably is a little bit more of a stretch, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, she's always really good about writing, like, really cool imagery and using specific details in her songs. And I get that with the verses when it comes to Lost Boys. When it comes to the chorus, again, I don't mind what she's singing about, but it's a little repetitive, and it's just not as hard-hitting as the verses. And the reason why, too, I feel like the production is what weighs the song down for me is because there is now an acoustic version that you can listen to online. And normally when she takes her more full band songs and does them acoustic, I don't like it as much. When she did that with Motion Sickness, ICU, Kyoto, or any of the songs from the Boy Genius album, I don't like them as much acoustic. This song is like the complete opposite. When you hear it just with an acoustic guitar and her vocals, I think it's a much more compelling song, and it doesn't feel like as monotonous, that chorus, and it doesn't feel like it repeats as much, or when it does, it just sounds like more emotional. And I think that's the disconnect with the studio version of the song. So again, even though I do like a lot of parts of the song, there's just some production choices and some songwriting choices that let me feel a little let down. But overall, I'm really excited for this new album. I hope some of the other songs are maybe less with the production and more focused on the lyrics, or more focused on her voice, or like real instruments, because this just had a little bit too much of that kind of more modern pop production sound that I'm not always the biggest fan of. And now, for my most anticipated album of the year, we had the latest single from Brandon Flowers. The song is called Plans, and it's going to be coming off of his brand new third studio solo album titled Thrasher, which comes out on August 21st. A lot of fans are excited for this album, me included, because Killers are one of my favorite bands ever. And I loved Brandon Flowers' first solo album, Flamingo. Super nostalgic album for me. I love it to death. Second solo album, I enjoyed The Desired Effect. A little bit more pop, not quite my style. A little bit of a disappointment, but most fans love it, so I know I'm the odd one out when it comes to that album. And if you think of the last Killers album, Pressure Machine, that's my favorite album right now of this decade, and it's my second favorite Killers album. And when he announced like a year ago that he was planning more than one solo album in the near future, and that one of them might kind of sound like Flamingo, one of them might be kind of more based off of what he was doing with Pressure Machine, I was super excited. So when he announced Thrasher was coming out and that it was going to be a country album, fans were a little surprised, a little worried, a little cautious. I myself a little included, because like most Killer fans, I wouldn't say country is a genre of music I listen to a bunch. Even though Jason Isbell is one of my favorite singer-songwriters of this decade, and just overall I think one of the best singer-songwriters today, I would say he also does rock and Americana, kind of like Brandon Flowers and the Killers. So when it comes to like just straight on country music, I don't listen to a lot of it. Yeah, I like me some classics like Johnny Cash, but I don't listen to him like every day like I do other bands and artists. When Plans got released a week ago, I was anticipating it, and I will say my favorite thing about it is that it sounds very genuine. I think that unlike some other artists, he's not just doing this to change genres or, you know, to become the next popular person to go from rock to country. Like, it sounds like he is taking the things that he grew up loving, the things that he mentioned in interviews that his parents listened to, especially his dad, and, you know, he wanted to do his take on it. And Plans is great because it sounds like he put a lot of care into the production, the songwriting, the music. That said, I do think this is a little safe of a song to release, especially as a first single. And I think that's good in some sense, because I think if you release like the best song on the album, kind of like what he did with Crossfire on Flamingo, you risk that when you listen to the rest of the album, you're a little let down. That said, if your first single isn't the most exciting first single, it might maybe draw some fans from like being as excited to listen to the album when it's released. But I prefer that, because then when I listen to the rest of the album, I'm going to go, man, these other songs are even better than the first single. And my hope is that's what's going to happen with this album, Thrasher, because Plans, I really like the song because the production is great, it's crisp, it's clear. Instrumentation sounds lovely. The acoustic guitars also sound very crisp, sound very clean. You get some harmonica, some strings, some pedal steel guitar, some keys. And again, it sounds very authentic, but not over the top, not like he's pulling from country tropes. That said, I feel like the songwriting and like the chords themselves and like the actual music, it doesn't do anything super exciting or new. And I think Brandon Flowers, one of the things he's best at is taking his influences, and instead of wearing them on his sleeves, he changes them into his own style of music. And on this song, at least on the first listen, nothing really caught my ear. The first thing that really, I guess, caught my attention was his lower vocals in the verse, which was cool because it sounded like he was doing like a version of Johnny Cash. Thankfully, the chorus, his vocals become more like his normal vocals, where they're passionate, he's belting, and I really love the chorus, and that's the part of the song that's really grown on me. It's really made me enjoy the song, because out of all these three songs, the chorus of Plans is the thing that gets stuck in my head the most, and it's the one I want to sing along to the most. And again, when it comes to the verse, lyrics are great in the sense that I like the themes. I like the idea of talking about dreams and plans that he made a while back when he was younger, and then as he's growing up, feeling like he's letting go of those dreams. And it's something that, it's a subject that he's tackled before on other songs. But I will say they're not as detail-oriented, or, they're not as, narrative-driven or character-driven as songs from Pressure Machine, which is again, one of my favorite albums ever. But I really enjoy the production. The song has a nice flow to it. Again, there's some things like the backing vocals. They've been, the Killers have been doing that a lot on recent albums and especially on tour. And he did that on his last solo tour and album. And although the singers that he's picked, they have great voices, I much prefer his voice. And sometimes the backing vocals are a little overdone. And I do wish the song went somewhere else musically. Like there's a little harmonica section from the second chorus to the last chorus. I just wish the song took one more extra turn. And I'm comparing this song to, this song sounds like when Bruce Springsteen did Western Stars, one of his more recent albums where he went country. That album is a really strong album, but it sounds like he's trying a little too hard to hey, this is my country album. When a couple days ago, I was re-listening to one of his lost albums, Somewhere North of Nashville. That album is fantastic, and I think is a much better album because it sounds more like himself. There's more songs where he's having fun. There's more songs where, kind of has an E Street Band sound, but if they were doing country music. There's songs that, he gets a little bit more rowdy. Or there's songs where, it sounds more like his normal songwriting style, lyrically, but set to more Western country music. And that album is fantastic. And I think the rest of this album might be like that. I think we're going to get other songs that Brandon has written before in the past that have the country influence. Songs like From Here On Out, Digging Up the Heart, The Clock Was a-Tickin'. Those songs are really great because they're fun and because it's adding his own, it's taking the influences that he likes from country music, but adding his own charm to it. And I think the rest of the album will be like that. At least that's my hope. Because if the rest of the album is as simple as this song, I still think I really enjoy it because I don't really think he can do much wrong. I love everything that he puts out. But I will be a little disappointed if there's not a little bit more variety, at least when it comes to tempos and instrumentations and just the overall vibes of the songs. But I can't describe how excited I am for this album. And I still hope we get that second solo album from him pretty soon, especially if we have to wait longer for a new Killers album. And I'm so excited that I even got tickets for his upcoming tour that I can't wait to see. And that'll wrap it up for this episode. All of these songs, even though I had maybe some small issues with them, I think are really decent songs. And I think the best thing about these songs is I think the albums that they will be attached to will be even better than the singles themselves. And I'm really excited to hear all of these albums once they get released. And when they do get released, I will be making longer versions of videos reviewing these albums. But until then, let us know what you think of these songs. Let us know what your hopes and wishes are for these upcoming albums. Which album are you excited for the most? But I appreciate you guys watching this video. And until the next one, I hope you take care and you'll be hearing from me soon. Bye-bye.